Welcome to another edition of Focus on Alternatives, sponsored by ADISA, the Alternative and Direct Investment Securities Association. I'm your host, Greg Moz, and today I have CEO of Nelson Partners, Patrick Nelson, and we're going to be talking student housing. So to set the stage, can you go ahead and talk about student housing overall, the marketplace, how it's evolved?
Sure, that'd be great. Student housing is a kind of a crazy area with college kids, and it's a segmented industry in that you have all sorts of levels. You have Class A, brand new, that's gorgeous. You have old rundown stuff like you and I probably lived in back in the day. And it's really evolved and creates some great opportunities to invest in.
So it's kind of a niche real estate. You think multifamily, office, retail, industrial, but now you're kind of segmenting down here in student housing. Why should broker-dealers, RIAs, reps look at adding this particular niche into the, alt portfolio for investors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say with student housing, it's the correlation. When you have low correlation with your other investments in your portfolio, it makes it safer. So you could technically even have an investment that's riskier by itself, but because of low or indirect correlation with the rest of your portfolio, it actually makes your portfolio safer. So when you have something that's in and of itself is technically safer in terms of risk of alpha and beta comparison, and then it's safer and is lowly correlated, it's like a double whammy for your portfolio, and that's great for RIAs and investors.
So you're viewing student housing as a safer type of real estate?
If you look at the correlation, the number one reason that students go to school is their age. So it doesn't matter if the Dow Jones is up or down or the economy is booming. It's when you turn 18 and you've been planning to go to a four-year university, that's when you go. And so because of the age-driven demand, it puts a lot less correlation compared to the rest of the economy, which is dependent on interest rates and an array of other things.
Got it. Makes sense. It's that demographic wave that's very predictable, so you can see what's coming. You know how many kids are turning 18 and are going to college.
That's right.
Do you think student housing investments is good for only accredited investors, or is it also suitable for kind of Main Street?
I think both. If you look at student housing and stuff, there's all sorts of owners. There's mom and pops buying for their son or daughter who's going to go to school there that year. There's people who attended there and they're alumni, so they want to buy a condo because they're loyal to the university. And then there's huge institutions that are putting in billions of dollars actually into the industry. So there's opportunities all over the place in student housing.
You've been focused on student housing investing for a couple decades. Can you walk us through kind of the different segments and how that fits in?
Sure. I mean, in student housing, you have older stuff where you maybe have a D- that you can turn around. It's been run by the same mom and pop for 30, 40 years, and it's barely livable. And you can go in there and do a value add and just give it Wi-Fi, for example, or fix up the countertops and make it more livable and take it from a D- to a C, all the way up to the Class A, Ritz-Carlton, luxury living for the upper demographics at the big schools that you see in all the shiny magazines and all those things and everything in between.
I saw an advertisement for a student housing deal, and they actually described it as Vegas-style resort amenities on student housing. So, so why would a child ever want to leave school? But when an investor's looking to invest and they're looking for an investment manager or a sponsor in this space, what are the key criteria that they should be judging a sponsor by?
That's a really good question. I would say the number one thing is the management company, the people who are going to be running the project after you invest into it, because that's really going to, that's going to create the reputation of the project and the performance overall of the asset and whether you lease up and how well you do and how well you perform in your expenses and all those things. So I think sometimes a lot of focus is on the sponsor, but once it's acquired, it's actually the property management firm that's running the project and determines the success. That's very, very crucial.
Thank you for that. One of the axioms when it comes to real estate investing is that you buy it right. You buy it in the beginning. So where are we on the market cycle when it comes to student housing?
We look at every university as its own microeconomy. So there's some, big SEC schools or BCS type schools where a lot of people, a lot of money have already come in. It's overbuilt. There's thousands of beds being built. to smaller markets where maybe they don't have a big football program, they're Division II, but there's still 20, 30,000 kids, where there hasn't been student housing built in 30 years, and then again, everything in between. So we look at every university and every college and its own market as its own microeconomy, and so you've got to be able to underwrite and understand the differences of each market, the pluses and cons of each market.
Yeah, local. That makes sense. One of my last questions for you is, you don't think of students as being maybe gentle on things, taking care of things, especially things that they don't own. How do you prevent, a bunch of students just from trashing a particular property?
I would say you can't prevent that 100% of the time, no possible way. But what we do is we underwrite the heavier wear and tear when we buy it. So our expenses, we call it turn, when all the kids move out. And if you're good, you walk through the properties and charge students back. If they decide to change their or rebuild their engine on your carpet, which has been done before, their motorcycle or something, and it ruins the carpet, technically they're supposed to pay. And that's why you get the mom and pops or their parents to co-sign all the leases and all those things. But for the most part, you can't prevent it, but you put it into your underwriting, and when you rent per bed, the extra revenue makes up for the higher expenses a lot of the time.
That sounds a good risk mitigant there. You just mentioned something, rent per bed. Most of the time, multifamily, it's rent per unit, but student housing has a different metric?
That's right. With students, they don't come with families, usually maybe a brother or sister, but they come individually. And so it's not really fair to have 4 kids all in one unit that one person is on the name of the lease. So instead we set it up so that each person is responsible for their bedroom and their rent, so that if they don't pay or they don't do something, it's not, badly reflected on all the other students.
I like that. Well, thank you, Patrick, for walking us through kind of the market dynamics around student housing.
Anytime.
And thank you for watching another episode of Focus on Alternatives. For more information about real estate investing or alternative investments, please see adisa.org. Thank you.